Live.
We live.
We live?
We're live.
Ooh, baby, we live.
We're live.
Here it is.
We live.
Back.
Woo! Alright, what's up, everyone? And welcome to the first live episode of your mother's favorite fantasy football podcast, Fourth and Goal. With me, Bash James, as is tradition, Chris Pace. What's up, Pace?
What's going on, Bass?
We got, not bad. We got Craig Alexander,
Saw, dude.
and we got Slade up in the building.
Wide up.
McIntyre's in the building too, but he's off to the side.
He's chilling
Hold
on the
on, Mac.
sideline. Mac.
Take our word for it.
Alright, guys. I hate to say it, but we did it. We angered the fantasy football gods this year,
We did something wrong.
and we need to repent for our sins.
Where did
Week
we begin?
1, couple of big names. Keenan Allen goes down.
Oh, my heart.
Out for the season.
Literally ruined my second round pick.
Didn't think it could get any worse. Week 2 brought a couple more, especially them big backs.
Lot of
Adrian
running
Peterson is out until, from what I heard, at least December. That's a big hit.
not
And
the whole
that's
year.
that's
close
being
to home.
generous.
That's close to home. Danny Woodhead, he's gone for the whole season, torn
A
ACL.
PPR champion gone for the rest of the season.
Shout out Melvin
I mean,
Gordon on that one.
Melvin
He can go
Gordon.
off.
If he's already going off.
He really is. He's
True,
balling out his
true,
second
true.
year.
He's just going to eat more cake. And even Doug Martin goes down for 3 weeks. That's terrible.
Hammies can linger too. Look at Gronk.
But again, Charles Sims. Charles
Go
Sims
out
is
and
gonna
pick him
eat.
up.
He's a baller.
But it's terrible. We have to find a way to please the gods again and get back to our studs scoring, because I'm sick and tired of it.
I think we're all sick and tired of it.
Speaking of running back injuries, as I said, those last 3 are huge. You got to find some way to replace them. Jared McKinnon this week especially, against Carolina, even Matt Asiata isn't really looking like a great matchup. Carolina's defense
Definitely go
is
McKinnon if you're picking one of them, I would say.
McKinnon definitely would be the lead back, but Asiata, I mean, he's done it a couple times. He scores touchdowns.
The thing is with Asiata is he's the guy who's going to get you the touchdowns, whereas I read something that said McKinnon actually has only had like 1 touchdown in the last 300 or so times he's touched the ball. But McKinnon's going to get you more points if you're in a PPR league, because he's the back that is on third down and the guy who's going to be the check down for Sammy B, who loves to check down.
Oh, definitely. He'll be the move the sticks backs for sure. I
Yeah.
think Asiata is looked at as more of a touchdown or bust kind of guy this week, especially against Carolina.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
hate their matchup.
I mean, Carolina's going to hold Bradford to nothing, in my opinion. Bradford looked good last week.
Think it was a fluke week
but,
one?
I mean, it's Carolina. Carolina is a great defense. A little weaker than last year, but, I mean, they looked good in the last 2 games they played.
Very
They
true.
totally shut out
San Fran or
San Fran. They killed
they
them.
killed San
True.
Fran.
If they can get
And
pressure on
the
Sammy
Broncos
Sleeves,
game was pretty
could be a
good
wrap.
in week
Yeah.
1. So I don't know if I'm going either of those two, even with Adrian Peterson down. I have Adrian Peterson. I didn't even look their way.
I think you go matchup instead.
I would go matchup, and one matchup I do like is Charles Sims this week.
Sims.
Especially with Doug Martin out. Charles Sims already was eating,
Mm-hmm.
and there's only going to be more opportunities. He's the lead back. I mean, Jaquiz Rogers will get a couple looks, but if you're going to go with anybody in that game, it has to be Charles Sims, especially if you're in the PPR, in a PPR league.
Yeah, he was already the receiving back for that team, so now he's taking over Doug Martin's first and second down role.
Oh,
So now he's going to be down for 3 downs, so that gives you more volume. So more volume always equals more opportunities for points and touchdowns, so
yeah.
can't go wrong in that direction, especially
And-
against the Rams, who really only have a front line.
I think Charles Sims is a must start this week, in my opinion,
Easy.
especially against a struggling Rams team right now.
Oh, man, I don't agree.
Yeah, but
You know,
there's a little bias on that because we got a Los Angeles Rams fan over here, so that kind of changes the opinion.
Very true. I mean, I see what he's saying on the front wise, but Buccaneers going to be passing the ball a lot too, and Charles Sims is the go-to underneath.
And Jameis loves to sling the rock, so
He does love to do that, man. He's slanging into 4 interceptions last week, so
yeah,
We'll see.
that happens. He also
Right there
threw
on
4
the
touchdowns the first week. So
Shout out Cardinals defense.
yeah,
Yeah,
Cardinals
Max is-
defense is a lot better than.
Nah.
Yeah,
Excellent.
he's gonna see
Excellent.
another NFC West defense this week, and I'm predicting some turnovers for sure. Trumaine Johnson, pick 6. That's a shout out right there.
Okay, all right.
That's a prediction.
Bold prediction.
I'm
I
gonna
like
call it
it.
right here. Jameis tears up the defense.
Yeah, I think that, I also agree
There's
with that.
a massive
You guys
difference.
are
I think it's
between
gonna
the two
be.
matchups.
I think honestly, I think it's gonna be like 34-7 if you're lucky. You get a touchdown. If you're lucky,
You think
get
we're
a
scoring a
touchdown.
touchdown?
I
That's
think-
hilarious, Craig.
I think
If
they
you're
get
lucky.
2 field goals.
You have 9 points on the
Two field
season
goals.
for 2 games. You're averaging about 4.5 points. So I'm actually being generous by giving you 7.
Wow, I was thinking like 3 field goals and maybe shut them out. But I'll take a touchdown.
Maybe Todd Gurley comes out of hiding and busts out a big game against Tampa Bay.
It'd be about
I
time.
would love
He's
it.
due.
It would be about time.
More
He's
favorable
due.
matchup than Seattle was for sure,
Yeah, absolutely.
and even San Francisco the week before.
Well, the problem is not Gurley, it's Case Keenum in their quarterback situation because they all are stacking the box against them because they know Todd Gurley's their only weapon, and Case Keenum can't throw the
True.
ball farther than 20 yards down the field. He's always throwing it before the first down marker. It's frustrating. It's got to be frustrating for you to watch every week.
Yeah, definitely.
And
That's
it's-
some 7 and 9. Shh.
Yeah, that's some Jeff Fisher team shit right there. Yeah, we don't need that.
But,
It's actually crazy to think that my boy Jared Jeff Goff can't even get in over Keenum, and they don't put up touchdowns. That offense needs to put up touchdowns. The defense isn't as good as it used to be. So
They lost a lot of key players.
where you at, Jared Goff?
By week
I'm
5,
waiting.
I think we'll see
I'm
Jared
waiting.
Goff.
Yeah,
Carson's
that's
in
not a
there.
bad assumption.
Carson's in there.
Yeah.
But and real quick with the Danny Woodhead, you're not going to be able to pick up this man, but Melvin Gordon is going to eat cake.
He already was.
Melvin Gordon scores like
Does he have 3 or 4
had no
touchdowns on the season
touchdowns
already?
last year. Yeah, he had no touchdowns last year.
Yeah. And then
So with Danny Woodhead going out, he's the only one to look.
They
uh,
also
did just
they signed
sign,
Ronnie Hillman, right?
Dexter
Nah.
McCluster.
Oh,
Vikings.
McCluster.
So
Oh,
if you're in a
Vikings.
pinch, desperation mode in a PPR, maybe full point PPR league, I would maybe give Dexter McCluster a flyer.
He's proved that he can ball out sometimes, and then other times he's a no-show. With the Titans, I remember I had him in a league a couple seasons ago, and he can get you double digits depending on how much volume he sees, but that's always a high-risk, high-reward kind of deal with him.
Win that Charger offense, you could definitely see volume if he takes that Danny Woodhead role.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so we'll definitely see if these guys can make the most of it from these big injuries to some key fantasy players this year. A couple guys that were drafted pretty decently high, especially Peterson. Danny Woodhead was up there, especially in PPR leagues. But that brought me to another question thinking about it today. I know that the quarterback position, especially like in PPR leagues, was dying. Everybody would wait to get a quarterback. If you didn't get the top guys like Rodgers, Cam Newton, let's even throw
Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger.
Tom Brady suspended. Otherwise, you could put him Ben Roethlisberger. I would consider him. Yeah, he'd be
He's a
up
tier
there.
1. He's a tier 1.
But if you
Definitely
don't,
bad.
if you don't get any of those guys, I mean, you can wait till the 6th or 7th
Oh, yeah,
round. Get a guy
absolutely.
like Andrew Luck, number 3 fantasy
Maybe a
quarterback.
Derek Carr or Blake Bortles.
Yeah, and you could survive off of that. But is the running back position coming to that now? Is the running back
Absolutely.
position dying?
I think it's
in
already
fantasy
been that way.
football?
You can just look at the way that drafts are going now. It's people are shooting straight for wide receivers because of the PPR leagues and because of the volume that the league has become pass happy now. So
Yeah, even
not much-
standard leagues.
Exactly.
Wide receivers,
Dominant.
the average player, the player drafted an average of first overall is Antonio Brown. Right after him, it's Odell Beckham.
Mhm.
You got to get those two. The backs, I
After
think,
that, you go
started
Julio
around
Jones.
Julio. Absolutely.
5, I think, was Peterson, and 7 was Gurley. So they're dropping there. But is that another position that going into the future with a pass-happy NFL league, are if you don't get those top running backs, can you really wait for a running back and still be fine as long as you go and stack up those receivers and quarterbacks?
I think for the most part, you'd be all right if you can get if you bypass the top running backs, say Todd Gurley, Adrian Peterson, Le'Veon Bell. If you can't get your hands on any of those guys, you definitely need to go for a wide receiver because those are the top producers in the league, and everyone after that is a whole tier underneath them. They're not going to produce as much or get as much volume and as much looks because they're the stars of their offense. So that's why they're highlighted so much. I think that you're better off even the whole first round for the whole, whether in your 10-team league or 12-team league, I could see 10 to 12 players all being wide receivers.
Easy.
Just because of the way that the league has been trending for the past couple of seasons.
Pass happy league.
Yeah.
I mean, I even
Terrible.
found this stat. I looked it up today. I went and looked at the average draft positions of all the top fantasy running backs. And then I looked up a couple of the guys who were killing it this year. I wanted to see where they were drafted and how they stacked up in rankings.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually wrong. Adrian Peterson was the 4th overall average drafted first running back drafted. Then it went Todd Gurley 5th, Zeke Elliott 7th, guys like Devontae Freeman 12th, even a little further down, but Eddie Lacy 25th overall.
Where was David Johnson?
David Johnson, he's having a good season, so...
Oh, you're not
I mean, he
including him in
was... I believe he was around, like, 8 or 9.
that. Yeah, he was definitely one of
But-
the top 10.
I'm just more looking at the guys you have to worry about. But, like, looking at the stats, like, AP drafted 4th overall in most drafts on ESPN. It's the second... Well, because of the injury. 62nd running back overall. Zeke Elliott, 14th, which is pretty good. But, I mean, the 3rd running back drafted, and he's only the 14th overall running back.
He's up there because of his
pretty
touchdowns right
horrible.
now.
Yeah,
Gurley
absolutely.
They're
is the
keeping him fantasy relevant.
39th overall running back.
Yeah, Gurley's
That's a shame.
had
The
a
second
very
overall.
poor showing.
And it just goes to show you, like, the running back position since last year, the studs really haven't been finding any holes to run through. They're really not putting up those stats they used to. Even 2 years ago, 3 years ago, running back was a huge position. But now you can get guys like C.J. Anderson, drafted 28th overall in most leagues.
Yeah.
He's the 3rd overall running back.
That's right, baby. Keep it coming.
I'll give you another one. Melvin Gordon, a guy we just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
This is only going to go up. He was drafted 69th overall.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
he's 6 overall.
Yeah, he was taken
He's
really
killing it
late.
right
I think he
now.
was
Oh,
taken
he's-
like in the 7th round in our draft.
Easy.
The
Like
guy,
Garrett.
Garrett Blunt,
This
Mm-hmm.
is
drafted
actually
late,
one
and
that
he's
hits
definitely a
home.
top 5 running back right now.
Matt Forte, 43rd overall
Draft
in
position.
the draft position. 2nd overall running back
Yeah.
right now. And on the Jets, he's one of their feature players, if not the featured player.
I
on
would say
that
he is the
offense.
feature player of their offense right now.
You saw
He's
that
been
with the
killing
30
it.
carries he had last week.
Yeah.
30
I
carries
mean,
for the old man.
And he gets catches, too. He
Mm-hmm.
just touches the ball. They
I
run
mean,
that
we are.
offense
He's
through
a
him.
force.
And it only opens up that passing game.
Absolutely.
That Jets offense is dangerous, even with Ryan Fitzpatrick back there.
It's actually looked
He
better,
runs that.
honestly, because Ryan Fitzpatrick has never been known for a guy that can get the ball down the field.
No, not at all.
If you watched it last week against the Bills, he was throwing the ball 25, 30 yards down the field to Marshall and Decker consistently. And it looked like maybe he finally had
And
some
even
arm strength in his-
Anunwa, the third receiver,
Yeah.
was getting the job done out there.
Yeah, so I think you're right. Their offense looks very potent the first 2 weeks. And it's good to have a potent offense
It
in
is.
the fantasy
Yeah.
football.
In fantasy football, you want the guys that are on those offenses that can just score high octane, fast moving
Of
course.
offenses. And that's another thing that people are drafting receivers way earlier is because the high octane, flashy plays are in the passing game.
Absolutely.
Nobody's really breaking off runs anymore.
No, absolutely.
Oh, you got your guys like C.J. Anderson.
Well, what about Crowell last
But
week? Didn't he have an 85-yard
That's
TD
what
or
I'm saying.
something?
Can you start waiting on that?
No.
Can you
I
wait
think
for those
100% you
running
can wait for the running backs.
I think
Yeah.
you can find a solid guy who has a good upside in the 6th, 7th round, maybe.
Absolutely.
Even wait until the
That's
4th
what I
or
waited.
5th to
That's
go.
what I waited.
A guy like C.J. Anderson.
I didn't get CJ till like the 7th round.
Yeah.
And he's the best running back I have on
Well,
my team.
next year you're not going to be able to get him. 7th.
Exactly. Well,
He's
that's how
awesome
it
in
is
that
every year,
offense.
though.
Yeah, very true.
People underperform the season before, and they drop in people's draft positions, and then sometimes they have a bounce back year, and sometimes they stay stagnant where they were.
Very true. Very true.
It's really hard to even get a consistent running back like to get 15 plus a game. I mean, how many of those guys are there really? It's
Few to none.
that are,
4 to
that are
5,
like
maybe.
consistent.
Yeah, at most.
If
If you
that.
pick up a nice wide receiver, even average middle of the road like Decker or something like that, I know
Or
he's
someone like
not.
Willie Snead, who's very hot right now.
That's like
Yeah.
a guaranteed like 15 around per game. Whereas
Absolutely.
a running back, they'll go for 20 a week and then get 10 the next week just because they don't find the end zone. It's
Right.
kind of they're not building up as many catches and getting yards as
Yeah,
as
unless,
easily.
Very
unless
true.
you have the PPR back, then you're kind of at a
Yeah.
disadvantage.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because unless that team's getting in the red zone and they're
Yeah.
getting the carries in the red zone for the touchdowns,
Yeah.
it's very unlikely for them to find the end zone. So
Yeah, I
Very
think
true.
the running back position also lends itself more to more competition and possibility of losing your job. First of all, injuries.
Yes.
Like, they're getting hit every play. Even if they're not running the ball, they're blocking and getting hit. So you can get injured anytime. And there's always at least 2 or 3 other backs behind you waiting to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, something I wanted to add to that about the competition-wise was the NFL seems to be all about running back by committees nowadays.
That's a new thing.
Every team has 2 or 3 running backs that could come in at any given time. Each running back fills a different role, whether it's goal line back or third down back.
Which makes it even harder to decide on your fantasy running back because you don't know, are you going to get the guy who's finding the end zone or are you going to get the guy who's just getting the receptions,
Who's
only
moving
gets
the
you
chains,
5.5.
yeah.
Exactly.
That's exactly what I was going to get to next. Yeah, like there's, even if you're not getting injured, there's still always other competition. It's not like a wide receiver where there's 3 spots and even if you aren't the best guy on the team, like you're still in the play. Whereas running back, if you're having a cold day, they're going to put someone else in. And just whoever's got the hot hand that day is getting yards. So it's a lot riskier, in my opinion, to spend a lot on a running back when it might not be their day every week, whereas a wide receiver is a little more consistent.
Exactly.
And it's terrible because the NFL is moving to that you have to have 2 backs kind of mentality to win everything. I mean, Broncos had Ronnie Hillman and C.J. Anderson last year. Even Jonathan Stewart and Fozzie Whitaker, who actually killed it a little bit. Cameron Artis-Payne carried them for a couple of games. I mean, it's hard to get a guy who's going to be a bell cow in the league because there's not that many left. So I could see it dropping off a little bit in draft rankings next year. Running backs dropping a little bit. You'll get the top guys like David Johnson in the first round. But
especially the dual threat running backs who also catch the ball.
Oh, yeah, especially in the PPR.
I think you'll see those running backs continue to soar in the drafts, where more traditional running backs will continue to fall. Like the Jonathan Stewarts and the Carlos Hydes and running backs like that.
Very true.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, I mean, it's enough about talking about struggling running backs. Sorry about that. Enough talking about struggling running backs. I actually want to talk about a not-so-struggling quarterback, but he's kind of worrying me. Last week, Aaron Rodgers did play the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, not Mr. Rodgers.
But watching that game, that offense, it kind of scared me a little bit. I know I have Jordy Nelson invested in that offense. But even guys like, I just said, Eddie Lacy was like the 25th ranked running back. Randall Cobb really isn't going off. Devontae Adams can't catch.
That whole offense in general.
That man cannot catch.
It's very true. He averages 2 drops a game at least.
I watched him have at least 2 to 3 in the last game, and it's horrible. I mean, the Minnesota Vikings defense is good, but come on, Pack. That was the top offense a couple years ago. Even last year they started tapering off. So what I'm trying to get at, are you worried about any of those players in the Packers offense? Like I said, I got Jordy Nelson. I know Slade has Aaron Rodgers.
I have Rodgers in 2 of my leagues, actually. I just got 5 little letters for all you out there about Aaron Rodgers. R-E-L-A-X.
Oh my
Relax. Rodgers is going to be fine. Jordy Nelson's coming off a big injury. I think he's just making his way back into the offensive scheme a little bit more.
Yeah.
Getting more comfortable each week. The rest of the offense is going to continue to get better. They have a very young team. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot more out of Jared Cook soon as well. The athletic tight end they signed in free agency.
Definitely a guy I thought was going to get an uptick in especially targets, but performance overall was Jared Cook. And really through the first couple games, the only person Rodgers looks to is Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson.
Well, he gives Devontae Adams looks, but he just doesn't perform, so...
I can't count those as looks because he just drops them. Rodgers is just praying.
Yeah, he dropped a difficult touchdown catch last week. Devontae Adams.
But I'll say, I'm not worried about Jordy. Jordy, Nelson, and Rodgers have it going, and they're only going to get better with Jordy learning a little bit more, getting back into the flow with Aaron Rodgers every week. I'm not worried about him. Guys like Lacy, they underperformed
Eddie Lacy, I'm a little worried about.
He underperformed last year, too. I mean, but I'm not really worried about him. That offense is going to find their way. They can't have gotten that bad.
Craig's cutting in. I'm actually really worried about this offense, collectively as a whole, because... You saw how they performed last season without Jordy. I agree with you in the sense that Jordy Nelson is coming back off of an ACL tear, and that's a very difficult injury to come back from. But the offense still isn't taking the top off the defense as it was 2-3 seasons ago when Aaron Rodgers was averaging, 35 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions?
Very true.
And
in which he was the deep threat. on that
absolutely,
defense.
absolutely. And Jordy doesn't seem to be in sync yet. And sure, that can happen later on, week 5, maybe week 6, they really start to hit their stride. But currently, what I'm seeing from them, I mean, they did verse a Minnesota defense that is well proven, and they are stacked. They also played a very young and immature Jacksonville Jaguars defense, and they kind of held them in check as well. They only lost the game by 4 points, so
Very true.
it kind of makes it a toss-up as to which way the offense is going to go. I think we need to see a little bit more out of them for the next couple of weeks, but I am a little nervous about the players on the team currently.
I mean, Rodgers still got the stats. He's still the 10th rated quarterback. I mean, obviously he's not the number 1 or number 2 he's been, but 10's not bad.
No,
If
not
you
at
got
all.
him in the league, you still got one of the better quarterbacks starting out there. I can see why you would worry about the Packers. I'm not really worried about them. Like I said, Aaron Rodgers is going to get his. Everybody goes into that little slump. And there's just no way a quarterback like Rodgers can't pull them from there. I mean, he was
Was
still
he
a
two-time
top
MVP?
quarterback last year, too. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
believe so.
proof is in the pudding.
I love Rodgers.
Yeah, they are struggling to block up front, though. If you were an Eddie
yeah.
Lacy owner, I would be a little bit worried. I think the loss of their guard, Josh Sitton, right before the season is a little underrated.
Yeah, I don't understand
They're
that.
struggling to protect the big boy.
I don't understand why they let him go, though, in the first place. Didn't he sign with the Bears, too? Division
Yeah,
rival?
Sitton,
division
yeah.
rival Chicago Bears. How about that? A little
Ignorant.
slap in
So,
the face.
so they let him go, and then he joins the division rival just to say, all right, well, I'm going to get you twice a year then for this.
Well, the Bears
It's
don't look very
hilarious.
good. I don't know
No.
if he's going to be able to get
They
revenge.
never
That
do
line
when,
actually
they never do
was
when they have
pretty
Jay
trash.
Cutler under center, though.
No,
Well, now
very
it's
true.
Hoyer.
Who?
He announced
Hoyer.
Brian Hoyer. Jay
Oh,
Cutler's
God.
injured.
I mean, Hoyer played pretty decent last year. I'm not going to pick
For any
him
of you
up.
Cutler
Don't
owners
get
out
me
there.
wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not
Hoyer?
picking up Hoyer. But
Bitch, you
Hoyer didn't do
crazy?
terrible last year besides that last game. The playoff game, he murdered
I
it.
mean, dude, you got to look at the fact that he had Hopkins to throw the ball to. If you take away Hopkins, Hoyer would have been probably the 28th quarterback, if not worse, in the league last year.
Yeah.
If not. Because he's just proven that he's just a journeyman. He
Yeah.
just bounces around. Can't really take a team anywhere. He'll get you 5, 6, 7 wins, maybe, if you're lucky.
Mhm.
Other than that, that's his peak.
Yeah. Like
As
I
a-
said,
as a player.
I'm not picking up Hoyer. So
You better not pick him up.
It's all
That'd be
good.
dumb.
I got Andy. I don't need anybody else.
You actually might need someone else if that's who you
You
got.
shut your mouth.
Ooh, what did Andy put up last week? A hot 11?
Hot 11.
A hot 11 after a very hot 43.
Oh, that's a big cool down.
Don't matter. That's the best defense on the field right now. Denver Broncos.
That's
I
true.
want them. Whoever's got them, if you're watching this, hit me up. I want to trade for the Denver Broncos.
That man's sitting right
He's
over
sitting
there.
right there.
That'd be
Yeah.
Mac and Schleier.
Yeah, the
We're
Broncos
gonna
are a tough
talk later.
matchup for anyone.
We're going to
No,
talk
we
later.
didn't.
Don't worry about it. I want Gronk, too. Blockbuster ball. I'll find a way.
That ain't gonna happen.
You're right there, Seb.
But,
I think the Colts offense is on the up and up. They had a few tough matchups in a row. They're definitely going to see better days. Probably got a few division games coming up. It's a little bit weaker competition out there. So, guy I'm looking at on your offense with the Moncrief injury, Philip Dorsett this week.
Philip Dorsett.
I don't know how you guys feel about him.
I love Philip
Philip
Dorsett.
Dorsett was
Yeah.
a first-round pick last year. They love him. I mean, he's going to get
He's going to
opportunities.
get his chance
We're
with
going to have to
Moncrief
throw
out
the
4
ball.
to 6 weeks.
The defense is sketchy until Vontae and Patrick Robinson
You guys
come
are down
back.
5 cornerbacks. You're going to be
Ooh.
throwing the ball all day, every
It's
day.
all good. Henry Anderson's coming back. Henry Anderson.
So you guys also don't have a running game, and your O-line is very suspect.
I mean, it's a little better than it was. That's all I can say. I mean,
Can't be any worse.
you take what they give you, and you just try to work with it.
Yeah, but I do like Philip Dorsett. I think he's going to slide in nicely as the number 2 option. I think he'll be able to get you double digits until Moncrief gets back because that, like we said, that offense is so pass happy, and the defense is so piss poor that they're always going to be down and having to come back. So I feel
Definitely.
like it's
And the
going
Colts
to
run a lot of down the field passing routes, so I think him and T.Y. Could be a nice
And they're both speed demons.
duo out there, exactly.
Yeah.
Andrew Luck's going to be throwing the ball deep in the next coming weeks.
Without a doubt, especially against San Diego this week. That's going to be a shootout.
The Colts are hungry. They're 0-2.
That's a
Yeah, that's true.
You want that. That is a great matchup right there.
That is.
But before we get into next week, we're gonna give out some game balls. Anybody want to start off?
I'll start it off.
All right, we'll
I
go
got
with
Stephon Diggs, who had 9 catches on 11 targets for 182 yards and 2 touchdowns. This man was probably on 50 to 60% of everyone's bench last week because of A, Sean Hill was there week 1, and B, they throw in Sammy B, who's only been learning the offense for like 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
So you put those two factors in together. People weren't confident that he was going to perform, but he performed way above expectations, and I think that it's going to continue to trend that way. He scored 34.5 points in PPR last week, and I think that's the highest all season, and he's leading the league in receiving yards. So I think that he's going to continue to thrive in this offense, especially now that Adrian Peterson's down. I think they're going to be looking more towards him as their new spotlight player.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to see how he trends for the next couple of weeks, but I think that Diggs could very easily finish in the top 10 wide receiver talk, if not even lower than that.
Yeah. I mean, Bradford looked to Diggs every single play.
Yeah, right? It
That was
seemed
like his
that.
only player.
Diggs-
Every time he's dropping back, he's
Diggs
looking.
looked good last year. He's starting to look like a stud
Yeah,
this year.
yeah.
That
He
is
looks
a
like he's
man
picked
I
up his
wish I
game.
picked up.
Yeah, me too. He wasn't drafted until like average draft position was like 12th round.
Yeah.
So
Unbelievable.
It was literally the bottom scraps of the draft, and it's looking like a gem.
And he barely, I bet he didn't start for half the teams out there.
That's what I just said. 50 to 60% of people probably had him on his bench.
Well, I think a
because
lot of
all the
people
options.
were worried about the whole Bradford
Exactly, the
connection.
transition.
But you know what? 1 week of practice with each other, with Bradford had with the ones, and Stephon Diggs dropped 180 yards.
And that's
Yeah.
pretty unbelievable.
I might be starting him every week from here on out.
Yeah, I would start him. You have to start him after that performance first of all. But yeah, to continue to see how the trend goes. Yeah, keep your eye on Diggs. Keep your eye on Bradford, because that could be a powerful matchup for the rest
I
of the
don't
year.
know, man. That whole game just seemed a little fluky to me.
I mean, it's
You have
very,
Sam Bradford going off. You have Diggs, who is a G, but literally eating whatever he wanted on the secondary.
he
was open.
manhandled that.
Not only him,
defense.
but every receiver on the team was open every play, it seemed to be.
Yeah.
And they beat the Packers. Like, that whole game, I don't know. I don't know how much I buy into that whole game. But
It is a divisional game,
We'll see.
so divisional games usually tend to have that kind of weird fix on it.
That's
you know?
true, yeah.
And the Vikings defense is for real.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Another thing
every
that
week starter after this.
kind of
week.
plays
Yeah.
into defense. I mean, it was their first game in that new stadium. They didn't play at home week 1, right?
No.
That was their
That
first
was the
game at
first
home.
one, yeah.
Brand
Yeah.
new stadium that looked amazing.
Mhm.
At home, I think maybe the crowd was into it.
Oh,
and defense
absolutely.
played a little better.
Definitely. I
Yo,
love that
speaking
game.
of
We'll see.
that,
We'll see.
Speaking of that,
But
did you
Diggs.
hear that they were actually the team was complaining about the noise in that stadium?
Not too loud.
Really?
They said it's too loud.
That's good.
They
How
might have
about
been
that?
going too hype.
That's what I'm
And
saying.
that's why they didn't kill the Packers instead of just beat them.
But that's a good game ball, Diggs, for
We'll
sure.
see.
Nice.
Speaking of hype, though, I think I'm taking my game ball back to last Thursday.
Last Thursday.
And that's Matthew Forte, running back for the
yeah.
Jets. He had a career high 30 carries for 100 yards and 3 TDs on the ground. I couldn't believe it. He also had 2 catches for 9 yards. Not his biggest night in a PPR league, catching the ball wise. But still, if Matt Forte is putting production on the field like this, then he might be getting my game ball every week, boys.
Yeah, I mean, if you see the volume that he had, 30 carries for, what is he, 32 years old?
Exactly.
That's pretty ridiculous for a running back his age. They usually try to switch it up. I'm surprised I didn't see Bilal Powell in the game more.
Yeah, it was
honestly, to
rumored
give
they
him a
were
break.
looking to kind of even up the carries, especially after Forte's big load week 1 as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But Will Powell, I think, saw maybe 10% of the snaps.
Yeah, if that. And for good reason, though, because Forte was breaking off runs 10, 12 yards here, 15 yards here. So he was really helping the offense move. And when they got in the red zone, it was game over. He was right in the end zone every time they got in there. So if you can have a running back that can do that for you, that's one of the guys that you can go after and say confidently that you want that guy on your team week in and week out.
And Forte was another guy who went late in drafts.
Absolutely.
Trade for Forte, everybody, if you
Yeah,
can.
if you can at this
Do
point.
not trade Forte.
It might not be. It might not be.
Do
easy.
not. No matter how bad you want Deca, do not trade Matt Forte.
Fast, don't bring
alright?
your blockbuster trades into
But
this.
speaking of receivers like Eric Decker, I'm gonna kind of give my game ball out for week 1 and week 2. I'm gonna give it to the timeless legend, Larry Bird himself, Larry Fitzgerald. Currently the number 4
Fitzy.
receiver in fantasy right now.
And how old is that man?
The man is killing it. I have no clue how old he is.
I'ma
I
start
know
calling
he's
him-
old.
I'm gonna start calling him Father Time because
But
he
man,
just owns the league.
I mean, 2 touchdowns against the Patriots. Then he goes off for 70-something yards and a touchdown last week on 5 catches. Larry Fitzgerald, all I can say is Nice hands, Larry.
I'd have to agree with that, Bass. He's really helped propel that offense, especially with John Brown lacking in production.
Definitely.
I think it's kind of an effect to that concussion that he had since he was out for a good month or two after he got that concussion.
Hey, didn't play the whole preseason.
And I don't think he's back to being his real self yet, and I don't know if he will be. But so far, what has he even produced for you, Slade?
He has 2 catches, I believe, for a total of 15 or 16 yards.
Yeah, and that's a ball breaker right there, because after the season that he had last year, where he either had like 90 yards or a touchdown almost every game, he went high in a lot of drafts, and I think a lot of people are regretting that decision at this point, and they're holding out and hope that because of how high powered that offense is, that eventually he's going to get those looks. Same thing with kind of Michael Floyd. He hasn't really been seeing that
Definitely,
production.
yeah, I put him in the same boat.
But yeah, I think as it goes along, if he can get back to where he was at, I see all the wide receivers in that offense performing well throughout fantasy for the rest of the season. But Larry, I think, is going to have another solid season. He is, like you said, timeless, and he's shown in and season out how great he can be, especially if you can get him to the playoffs. That guy's one of the best players you can have in the postseason.
Definitely, and he almost
without
never
doubt.
gets injured as well.
Mm-hmm.
But real quick before we go to your game ball, I just want to add in Larry Fitzgerald, great guy. John Brown last week was only on the field for 57% of their offensive snaps, while guys like Larry Fitzgerald and Michael Floyd both got over 95.
Yeah,
So it goes to show you that concussion might still be lingering with John Brown.
absolutely.
I got him on my bench. I'm just waiting for that kid to blow up.
Yeah, you gotta
100 receptions the last 2 years, his first 2 years. And he had 1,000 yards last year. I'm wondering.
He's definitely a great player. You just have to wait. At this point, you have to stash him on your bench and wait and see. You know,
Yeah.
You got to wait for him to perform, because you can't risk another 0.5 or 1.5 outing from him.
Oh, yeah.
That's too damaging to your team. So
I
I think
won't put him
you
in.
keep him on your bench. You definitely stash him away. He's too good to drop and to leave out there.
Definitely had over 1,000 yards last year,
Yeah.
7 touchdowns.
Yeah,
He could pop off at
someone's
any
going to
time.
pick him up if you drop him, and they're going to stash him on the bench.
And that's just when he'll start to go off.
Exactly.
So
So
you don't do that.
don't make that mistake. Don't be dumb.
Don't
give
do
up
it.
on him yet.
Keep your
Stash
finger
him.
off the
Keep
drop
'em.
button. Don't do it.
It's true.
You're smart. You're loyal. All right, Pace. Bring us home.
Who you giving the
Who's
game
your
ball
game
to?
ball going to?
All right. I'll give out my game ball, wrap this up so we can start talking about predictions. But my game ball for the week is going to Strip Sack Miller and the
Sack
Denver
Miller.
defense.
There it is.
Not only did they kill it in fantasy this week, getting 23 points.
Unreal.
That's off a interception, which went for a touchdown. I keep to lead. And went to a strip sack by Von Miller for a touchdown.
Sorry, Andrew Luck owners.
Yeah.
So,
for real.
Sorry,
not only in
Indy
fantasy
fans.
did they kill it, 23 points from a defense, that's amazing. But they also basically secured that win for the Broncos and
Oh, absolutely.
just sealed the deal. I mean, first the pick six, that was huge. I mean, he went from the one side of the field, broke like 3 tackles, went to the other sideline, scored a TD.
Shut
And then
your mouth.
strip-
No, be
Strip
quiet.
the
Bass.
crap out of Andrew
And
Luck.
then
at the end of the game.
not you can't even get to it that quick, man. It's like perfect time for Andrew Luck when you know he's going to drive down that field and score another game-winning touchdown, and you're like, here it comes, like you know it's
It
coming.
was coming.
I was playing against Bass
was
in
there.
fantasy, and
It was
if
there.
Luck had done that drive, I would have certainly lost my the week. And it was like the Super Bowl all over again. Vaughn is so clutch. Right when you need it, he will come
Absolutely.
around that end
Absolutely.
and
He
just get the fumble, man. And it went for a touchdown. Like
He
that is
showed
incredible.
that that's exactly why he got paid.
Yeah.
Exactly why he got paid for plays like that. Especially with the quarterback like Simeon, who had never played one snap
Yeah.
at the start of the season. He's going to be a big boost to
Yeah.
the start of Simeon's career because that defense is stout. And it's.
I mean,
they
yeah.
thought there would be a drop off from losing. What they lose? Trevathan, or no,
Yeah.
they lost.
they lost Trevathan.
Trevathan and
Jackson.
Malik Jackson. They lost a couple of key players, but they're still showing that they're just as resilient as they were last season. So
They are resilient.
They are.
So that's a
Enough
great-
talk
that's a great
about
pick.
Indy. I don't want to hear about that.
Come on, man.
All right, I got another segment. We're gonna try this one for the first time. You got me going with John Brown, man. I'm gonna ask y'all, where you at, John Brown? Where your ass at? So with where your ass at, we're gonna look at a player should be performing, doing nothing, and we're gonna ask you, where you going? What's going on? And my guy, like I just said, is John Brown. I just praised Larry Fitzgerald. Michael Floyd, awesome receiver. Carson Palmer, one of the best trades in this century. Getting him to the Cardinals trading for Carson Palmer for a 6th-round pick and a 7th-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the top 5 quarterbacks, especially in fantasy every year. But John Brown, man, like I said, 100 receptions in 2 years, 1,000 yards last season. Dynamic player, blow off the top.
I had him last season. He was
Every
awesome.
single game, it seemed like he was in there. Rarely did he have an off game. And he's sitting on my bench.
We have to.
And I'll tell you, with my team, there's plenty of opportunities to get in that flex position. So where you at, John Brown? Where you at?
He's waiting.
All right, you guys got beef with somebody? Where they
I
at?
actually have
Where
major
they
beef. I have major beef. Todd Gurley, where you at, man? I know it's not all his fault. There's no passing game. O-line isn't looking the best. We played some good defenses. But where are you at, Todd? I don't have any real stats readied up here to spit at you, but I've been watching these games. He's not scoring touchdowns. I know fantasy owners who have him, I'm sure, are upset because he was a first-round pick for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And he hasn't broken double digits, hasn't gotten in the end zone. So where are you at, Todd Gurley?
That's a very good question.
I need that back,
I don't
really.
know if we're going to really get to see the Todd Gurley that we saw last year. Now that teams have locked in and identified that they're run first, pass second, which in a pass-happy league is the wrong way to go.
Yeah.
So they're stacking the box, putting 8 men in. They're daring Case Keenum to throw the ball downfield, and still he is throwing the ball 5 yards down the field.
Yeah.
You're not going to open up the game for Gurley unless you start chucking the ball. Even if you don't complete it, you still have to show that you can throw the ball deep. So that you can get the safeties and corners to back up, so that you can get some running lanes open for Gurley. Otherwise, it's just going to be a stagnant offense.
Couldn't agree more. And when they do try to create big plays, what the Rams consider a big play is a pass behind the line of scrimmage to Tavon Austin that they hope breaks out for a long run.
Yeah.
Like even when they're
Or at
going for
least the
something
first
big
down.
or creative, it's not even like a deep ball.
It's not
They're
down the
going-
field.
They're going backwards.
They're counting on him to be able to break a tackle and the rest
Yeah.
of the offensive players to be able to block.
Yeah, it's hard to watch. But Todd Gurley, where you at, man? Come on. This week it is. It's going to be there.
Yeah, that offense is just terrible. It's going to be tough for Todd to do anything. It's going to be real terrible. And they didn't look that bad last year.
I got one.
Wait till golf
Let's
gets
hear
in.
it.
Where yo ass was at Devontae Freeman.
Top 5 running back last year.
This guy last year, what did he have? 3 consecutive 30-point games?
Yeah, something
Some
like
type
that.
of crap like that.
Knocked me out of the playoffs.
Yeah,
Killed me.
the guy was killing it last season. This year, he's gone for a total of 15 points, 6 points the first week, 9 points the second week. He got a little more on track last week, 17 carries for 93 yards. Looked a little more like himself, but still you have to deal with the fact that this is now a running back committee, and that's how they always want it to be. It was just the fact that Coleman had broken ribs last year, so they couldn't make it a running back committee. It fell solely on Devontae Freeman. And I think that the more that the season progresses, you're going to see that it's going to stay a committee running back. I don't think it's really going to lean one way towards Coleman or one way towards Freeman, but I think that it's definitely going to be a change of pace kind of running back situation. And it's not a bad thing because it limits the injury potential and the amount of carries and hits that the players are taking, so it could actually give them fresher legs. The run game could be a little more potent. However, the Falcons' offense isn't that great. I mean, the offensive line isn't that great. Obviously, the offense is good. They have Julio. They picked up Mohamed Sanu, but
And they have a passing game, too, so you would expect that running game to be pretty decent. But,
Exactly.
they don't do much play action, really, or a lot of stuff like that.
yeah. And I want to know where your ass was at because while Freeman is getting a total of 15, you have Coleman on the other and getting 26.5 in the first 2 weeks. And when you see that, it kind of makes you nervous, especially if you drafted him high. And I'm sure he was taken within the first 4 rounds, so that can make you a little nervous as an owner on what you should do.
Second round.
Well, for some people, second round, risky biz. But yeah, so Freeman, I don't know what's going to happen. I guess we got to wait and see. But I want to know where he's at.
Like I told you, though, second round, Devontae Freeman, 12th overall. In some leagues, that's a first-round pick right there.
Definitely.
Very disappointing. But Tevin Coleman, this is what he was supposed to do last year. This is exactly what they wanted him to do, and then he got injured. And Devontae Freeman went off.
Wasn't
had
he the
monstrous
featured back
games.
too, Coleman?
Coleman started
was the featured
year.
back, right?
I remember I picked him pretty high.
Yeah.
I liked having Coleman last year.
And he was performing well.
He played well the first game and got hurt, I believe, the second or third, and lost that job quickly to Devontae Freeman.
The same thing happened to Andre Ellington last year. He got hurt first week. He did pretty well. Got hurt first week. Enter Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson goes for 1,000 yards.
This year, all three running backs still on the same team. Enter David Johnson.
It's true. After
cycle
what
out
did he
here.
go down with, a broken leg? Chris Johnson last year,
I
something
believe
like
so at
that.
the end of the year, nearly
David-
1,000 yards.
And David Johnson comes in, and now he's
Kills it. It's
now
his
he's
job.
the featured back. Absolutely.
Could be a top 10 back this season.
Oh, I think he will be.
Sure.
Because especially within that offense, they get so many potential opportunities in the red zone on the opponent's territory.
And also, in PPR, he is just a total beast, man. The plays this kid can make after the catch are unrivaled
Yeah, unreal.
among running backs.
He
He,
had a
looks
catch-
like a wide receiver.
Yeah, he had a catch for like 50 yards last week. He's great. He's amazing in all aspects of the
That
game.
offense is great, too. He's got plenty of opportunity. But, all right, Slade, I want to know, who you looking for?
You know who I've been missing, man? You know who I'm questioning?
Who you questioning?
What's
What
up?
I'm wondering
Who's
in
asking
location?
questions?
Where they at?
It's the number 3 tight end from last year, Gary Barnridge.
Oh.
Where was you at, bro? NFL game was just played last Sunday. Were you there? I don't think so. The Browns' offense was actually scoring,
That's
and
true.
you still weren't part of it,
That's
man.
true. That's heartbreaking.
Come on, dude. You were the number 3 ranked tight end last year. I actually leaned on you heavy down the stretch, making my playoff run. And this season, through 2 games, you have like 3 catches for 30 yards.
That's heartbreaking.
30 yards. You were one of the top red zone threats last year, Gary B. Where are you this year?
You have to wonder if Kessler coming in is a good thing or a bad thing, because he could look to Barnage as kind of a safety valve.
Definitely, especially with Coleman out this weekend with the broken hand.
Yeah, so
Oh.
you wonder if that's a good thing for him, but at the same time, it's a rookie quarterback, and they're going up against a Miami Dolphins defense that has a pretty stout front line that could make it rough on Kessler.
Definitely. It's definitely going to be rough for Kessler this week. I would
he's on the road.
look for Miami's defense to stream this week.
Absolutely.
In all of your leagues. They're not owned in many leagues at all.
First of all,
Less
they
than
play
10%.
Cleveland. First of all, they play Cleveland.
I got him.
Yeah, Bass stole him from me. Nobody else was supposed to take him, and then Bass decided to take him as his first waiver claim.
Gee.
So
But listen, I don't think the quarterback matters anymore for Cleveland at this point. Gary B just needs to step up.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, the only reason I don't like Gary Barnridge is because, yes, Cody Kessler can come in and throw to him, but week 4 is the end, and then week 5, Josh Gordon comes back. Josh Gordon's back. Coleman will only be coming back from that broken hand. They're going to have 2 big weapons in there. Coleman looked fantastic last year. Called that.
Last week?
Game day. 2 touchdowns last
Yeah.
week. And Josh Gordon is one of the top 5 receivers when he's on the field. That man can catch anything.
Okay.
So, if anything, I think Gary Barnridge might go into the 3rd, into pecking order. And on a bad offense like Cleveland, that's never good.
That's true.
And I mean, even with McCown last week, that's his favorite target, Gary Barnridge, and he really didn't do anything last week either.
Yeah, they had a connection last season, but it wasn't there this week. So
I hate Ron. Ron's part of our fantasy league too, and I hate him.
yeah, Ron's a big dumb kid, but
He'll never win anything. That's the only problem with Ron. But enough of that.
who just got a fantasy alert?
It was me.
What's the
Speaking
deal?
of grinding
What is it? What is
somebody
it?
up that can't
We got a
do
live
it.
deal?
update.
Breaking, everyone. Doug Baldwin is good to go this weekend.
Not injured.
Formerly questionable. Doug Baldwin is a full go, Seahawks coaches say.
What's the deal with A-Rob?
He practiced fully today with that knee injury. Nothing to worry about, people. Russell Wilson may still struggle, but I guarantee Doug won't.
Guaranteed.
Guarantee. I guarantee.
Slade, a
Not
man
to
true.
play.
You're hard.
My first guarantee of the year, actually.
First of the
Is that
year.
Doug Baldwin will catch a touchdown this week. How do you like
That's a
that?
bold prediction.
Wow. We'll
I
hope you
mean,
get that.
Doug Baldwin was like, what, the 7th, 8th overall receiver last year?
At the end of the year, he was
he
retired.
proved something. I mean, yeah, he had those 2, like, 20, 30 point games.
He led the league in
But I
touchdowns.
mean, still, you can have 20 and 30 point games, but he was a top 10 receiver for the whole season. He might do something, but Russell Wilson's scaring me. I don't know if I really want to look his way. If you got any other options, you might want to wait until Russell Wilson looks like Russell Wilson.
It's not all on Russell Wilson, though. That O-line looks like the worst in the NFL currently. They can't get a run game going, nothing to help get the pressure off of him. It's kind of like the reverse of the Los Angeles Rams situation where you have a good quarterback, you just don't have an offensive line that can block for him, so he can't get the ball down the field.
Yeah.
I got a question, though. What's the deal with Allen Robinson, Slade, this week? I heard he's sick. What's going on? Is he playing?
Allen Robinson practiced fully today with that illness.
Great news.
I got the fantasy alert earlier.
Okay, great.
He's good to go. He's struggled a little bit this year, guys. But I think it's just because people know about him this year. He's not surprising anyone. But I think he's still top 5 in the league in targets right now.
Yeah, he has 20. He has 20, which is...
He still has a chance to go off every game.
Easily will. I think that it just needs to... The offense just kind of needs to sink in a little more.
Definitely.
They look terrible.
They're struggling a little bit right now. Not much of a run game.
Absolutely.
I think once that starts to pick up and they go a little more play action deep, that's going to favor Allen a lot.
Getting
both Allens.
Ivory
as well.
back. Getting Ivory back, though, it could be the biggest help for them to actually get, the offense moving down the field because they're not getting any production on the run game with Yeldon currently.
Robinson still gets a lot of downfield targets every game. I'm still putting him as a start every week kind of guy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You have to because you'll kick yourself if you put him on the bench.
Just like Aaron Rodgers, I'm also saying relax on Allen Robinson.
No doubt. So what's the deal?
Yeah.
What's your matchup?
You want to do it?
Do what?
You want to go back to back?
I love going back to back.
We're going back to back.
That's my favorite thing to do.
Back to back. We're going to compare 2 running backs this week, see who's got the better situation. If you have any of these guys, start them. This week, we were talking about that Falcons backfield. So let's, our first back to back is going to go to, who do you start?
Give it to the man who drafted Freeman in the second round.
Is it Freeman pace?
Let's get a
or do you sit him for Tevin Coleman?
Ooh, this week I'm saying you finally start Devontae Freeman.
You mean you weren't starting him the first 2 weeks?
First
I think most
week,
people were starting him.
I started him week 1. Yeah, week 2 I did not start him.
Okay.
But this week I'm saying put him back in the starting lineup, as I am doing. They are playing the Saints this week, who week 1 the Saints gave up 151 rushing yards and 3 rushing TDs to 3 different running backs.
Oh, the Saints defense is absolutely terrible.
So if there's any week where you might see Devontae finally get in the end zone and put some work in, it's against the Saints D. Like I just said, 3 different running backs on the Raiders scored TDs in that game. So I think that Atlanta should be able to mimic some of that. Not only that, but the Saints also allowed 6 catches for 51 yards for an 8.6 yard average. In their week 1, so they're definitely giving up some passing yards to the running backs as well. They kind of didn't mess up as bad in week 2 against the Giants. They only allowed 68 rushing yards with Vereen and Rashad.
Yeah, that was more of a defensive battle than I think everyone thought that was going to be.
Yeah, it was more defense, and the Giants kind of wanted to go in the air as much as possible. Eli threw it like 41 times, so they weren't really trying to pound the ball. So, that does give some credit a little bit to the Saints, I guess.
So you're not worried about Coleman taking away from Freeman?
Oh, I'm definitely worried about that, but I think this week,
you think he's going to eat more
This
than
is the
Coleman?
time for him to go. I think he's going to eat more, yeah.
Okay.
In the Falcons' last game, Freeman did rush for 93 yards. He didn't get in the end zone. If he had just gotten in the end zone one time, his stat line would have looked a lot better. It would be 93 yards on the ground. That was nice. But he had 0 catches.
Right.
Which is weird. Which is really weird for him.
Yeah, that is out of character.
Tevin Coleman, though, had only 2 catches, so they weren't really throwing to the backs at all last week, which is strange. And Coleman, like I just said, Freeman rushed 17 times last week. Coleman ran 12. So Freeman, did get his looks, got those 93 yards, just didn't get in the end zone. I think this week against the Saints, they'll be throwing to him, just like what happened to the Saints in week 1. They'll be getting yards, TDs on the ground. So
that Saints defense is trash.
Coleman for sure.
All right, I'll give one to Craig. I got one for you. Now, I just want to hear you say his name, so
Oh, low.
I'll throw it out. You going Mark Ingram against Atlanta this week, or would you take Lacy against Detroit? We going back to back.
Lacy against Detroit.
Now, Eddie Lacy has been doing terrible. So is Mark Ingram.
Absolutely.
Neither have gotten it off. Both versus favorable matchups against their respective teams. Mark Ingram going up against Atlanta, and Eddie Lacy against Detroit. But You got to pick one.
I think I kind of favor Mark Ingram in this because if you look at the Packers offense last week against the Vikings, James Starks looked so much more elusive, looked so much more definitive on his cuts. He was getting the passes out of the backfield. He looks like the better running back right now, honestly, in my opinion. And I think he's performing better. When you flip it over, though, Ingram hasn't been performing, but I don't think it's entirely his fault. The first week was a shootout where Willie Snead and Brandon Cooks both combined for like 280 yards and 4 touchdowns. So that's kind of hard to get the running game going in that. And then week 2, it was, like you guys said, a defensive battle, and the Giants did just pay over $100 million for their new defense. So you would hope to see some kind of an uptick from the last game where it was 52-49 as the final score, even though it wasn't as exciting for us to watch. But that's why I would definitely lean more towards Mark Ingram this week. With the Atlanta Falcons don't have any type of defense, honestly. Their pass rush is abysmal. Their pass rush is abysmal. Drew Brees is going to have time all day, and I think there's going to be holes for Ingram too. So I think collectively that offense is going to dice up the Falcons' defense. So I would definitely stick with Mark Ingram over Eddie Lacy.
It's music to my ears, Greg. Music to my ears.
Well, that's solely because you just traded for him.
Oh, of course. Adrian Peterson goes down, you got to go get somebody. Shout out McIntyre.
All right, Bass, I got one for you.
Good.
Are we going big boy Blunt, or are we going the fill-in back, Spencer Ware?
All right, I got to go. This one, I'm going with LeGarrette Blount. Spencer Ware, he's great. He's been putting up numbers this year. Definitely was a must start in the week 1 and week 2. But Jamal Charles is coming back. They're working him into this offense. Jamal Charles is the feature back in this offense. He's going to get a majority of the touches, I think, starting off right off the bat. You don't give a guy like Spencer Ware doing as well as he does, you don't give him more touches than you give a guy like Jamal Charles, a top 5 back in the league right now.
True.
So with LeGarrette Blount, Deion Lewis is out. That's a big thing right there. Deion Lewis, Tom Brady's favorite running back. I mean, even with Jacoby Brissett in there, he's going to have to pass, and when he passes, it's not going to be for long. They're not going to ask much out of him. Deion Lewis would have been perfect for that.
Oh, absolutely.
James White will have to be enough, but LeGarrette Blount is going to be doing all that running. And even against the tough Houston defense, Bill Belichick finds a way to get LeGarrette Blount rolling. I think he finds his pay dirt this week. I'm going with LeGarrette Blount.
All right, I like it.
So, all right, taking us home, Slade. I got one for you.
What
This
do
will
you
be
got?
interesting. We were talking about injuries earlier last week. A couple names like Adrian Peterson, Danny Woodhead. Whew. But we're going to go with 2 other guys. Amir Abdullah went down last week, too.
That
Put
he
on
did?
IR, out for the season. Very unfortunate. And Doug Martin's out for 3 weeks. So it opens up an opportunity for them backups. So yours, I'm going to ask you. You go Charles Sims against LA, or you go Theo Riddick at Green Bay?
Oh my, that is a doozy right there. I'm gonna tell you what, I like both of those guys. But this week and back to back, I think I'm taking Charles Sims.
Interesting.
I'm a big fan of the
Sorry,
kid,
Rams.
honestly. I think the Detroit Lions has more weapons going on. The Mike Evans, I think, is the best receiver between the 2 teams.
Easy.
But with Anquan Bolden, you have Golden Tate, and you have the newcomer Marvin Jones, who apparently
He's
took
looked good.
the Calvin Johnson route tree out of the playbook.
Ooh.
To go along with an athletic tight end with Eric Ebron, there's a lot of mouths to feed up
Yes.
there in the passing game in Detroit. I love Theo Riddick. He's going to get a ton of carries now as well, which he's never really gotten before, to go along with all those catches he got. So if you have Theo Riddick, especially in a PPR league, I'm starting him this week. He's money. But simply based off back-to-back, if we're going long-term, well, actually, long-term, Theo Riddick is the smarter choice. Sorry to say. I want to rescind that real quick. But for this week, especially, Charles Sims. I love the matchup. I think Sims is going to get a ton of carries to go along with his catches. Jaquiz Rodgers, I believe, was just signed this week, so he's probably not very familiar with the playbook at all. So I just think Charles Sims is the way to go this week.
Yeah.
I'd agree.
Plus, with Jameis being a young quarterback, he does tend to check it down a little bit more still.
Sims saw a lot of volume last year and this year.
Exactly, and Jameis loves himself, that little young running back.
He's a speedster.
And I mean, I like Charles Sims. He's a good runner. Like you said, Theo Riddick isn't the greatest runner. He'll pop off a couple every so often. But they also got that kid, Dwayne Washington, who only carried the ball 4 times in the game, but also got 31 yards off of 4 carries. And Amir Abdul played, a half of the game, so not a lot of carries, but he's going to move up. He's going to get his opportunities. And Theo Riddick, if he can't get it done running, maybe they look to this kid to get it done on the ground. And Theo Riddick goes right back to that third down back role.
Well, I don't think with his new contract that's going to happen, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We could see about your bold call,
I mean,
Washington.
Anybody who doesn't get it done, even if you're getting paid, you can get sat. It happens.
You know what Washington sounds like to me, Bass? Sounds like a Hail Mary.
Hail
That's
Mary.
true. That's definitely a Hail Mary right there.
Speaking of Hail Marys,
Full of grace.
we're going to hit them up. We're going to go with the Hail Marys of the week. Guys that are owned in 20% or in under 20% of leagues, but got a great position to go off this week. Who wants to start us off with their Hail Mary?
You start us off.
Hail Mary?
Yeah.
Come back to me. Come
All
back.
You had a nice one.
All right.
I want to hear what you guys have
All right,
to
let me
say.
get my rosary out when I say my Hail Mary right here. I'm coming out with a guy who's gotten a lot of volume the last 2 weeks from a rookie quarterback. We're going Cole Beasley on the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
Wow.
Now, he's not always going to get you that many yards, but he's kind of like a Juice Landry player where you know he's going to get a lot of opportunities.
Poor
So
man.
if you get a lot of opportunities, absolutely. But you know you're going to get a lot of opportunities. That's great for PPR leagues because you know that the more opportunities equals more yards, and you get a point or half a point for every reception. Dak seems to love him as his safety. Him and Witten in particular. I mean, he fed Dez a lot last week, which I think was a focal point of the offense because of how much the media was making that he didn't target Dez so much the first week and blah, 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 whatever, all that stuff. But I think Cole Beasley is a nice compliment to Dak Prescott, and he's already found him for, I think, like 13 catches on the season. Mm-hmm. I think that Beasley is going to continue to perform well as long as Dak is under center.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's a very good one. Plus, he's owned in less than 15% of leagues or something like that.
Yeah, he's very low.
Definitely go out there and get Cole Beasley.
You could definitely pick up Cole Beasley if you need someone.
You know what, Craig? For my Hail Mary, I think I'm going to stick to receiver. This week, my Hail Mary, Nelson Aguilar for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Woo!
Staying in the NFC.
I like it.
Now, they are playing Pittsburgh. That's a pretty decent defense right there. But Carson Wentz, the first 2 weeks, no matter who he's played against, the Browns, the Bears, it doesn't matter. That kid looks fantastic. Gets the ball out fast, doesn't give people an opportunity to hit him in the backfield. Only when he runs out to the sidelines, then he'll take a couple hits.
Kid's got to learn how to slide.
No doubt.
But the main thing about that, I do like the Pittsburgh matchup. Because Pittsburgh is going to score in this game.
That's true.
Ben Roethlisberger, Ant Brown, D'Angelo Williams has been going off. The Eagles, yes, Carson Wentz is playing pretty good right now. Pretty close to one of the top quarterbacks out there. Top 15, possibly. But he's going to need to prove himself this week, try and keep up with it with the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. And I think if anybody's going to benefit off of that outside of Jordan Matthews, it's going to be Nelson Aguilar, quick, speedy guy, and played real well that first week.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I think it comes down to how well the Steelers' defense has surprisingly played the run game, too, as well, which is probably going to lead to the Eagles having to abort the run game early on probably by the second quarter and just start going to either feeding the ball out on rollouts to Sproles or start slinging the ball downfield.
Yeah.
That's the only way that I think that they'll be able to compete with the Steelers.
I mean, they didn't look afraid to last Monday night to get away from that run. They ran 9 straight pass plays on that first drive. They're willing to lean on Carson Wentz to get it done. They put him in positions to make smart moves, and Doug Peterson's doing a good job with them. Look at the job he did with Alex Smith over the years. Carson Wentz, that's another guy you should look out.
Yeah, they have a ton of confidence in him. They actually were 3 for 3 on fourth downs in the game.
Oh, wow.
Carson Wentz as well.
Wow.
So they're even putting him out there on big down situations too. Letting the kid rip.
I'd say that's a good Hail Mary pass.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, let's hear it, Slade. Who's
Unlike
your
you
Hail
guys,
Mary?
man, I don't think I'm going receiver this week. I'm feeling a young running back as my Hail Mary. Owned in less than 25% of leagues. The rookie Kenyon Drake with Arian Foster unlikely to play this week. It's between Jay Ajay and Kenyon Drake to get the reps. Jay Ajay currently is listed as the starter, but I think with Kenyon Drake's skill set and the fact that the management was previously upset with Jay Ajay, he was in the doghouse, and they brought in a new regime this summer. I think with the fact that Kenyon Drake being one of Adam Gase's first draft picks, a third rounder by the way, I just think he could be potentially Lamar Miller Jr. for those Miami Dolphins. He could just be waiting for his opportunity right here, and this week could be the time he gets it. So if you're looking for especially in a PPR league, if you're looking for someone to stream, you had Jonathan Stewart or you had Doug Martin or Adrian Peterson, why not Kenyon Drake? Especially in 12-man leagues. I think the kid has a lot of potential.
He's shown his burst when he can get into the open field, so it's definitely about opportunity. So
Definitely. And he got the goal line carries as well, I want to add, week one.
he had a touchdown, right?
Yeah, he had 2 rushes. One of them was on the 1 yard line for a 1 yard touchdown. So he proved he could at least find his way into the end zone.
He's definitely got the position to beat out Jay for the lead back until Aaron Foster comes out. He's
Definitely.
very
And he's got that
explosive.
pesky hamstring, so you don't know how long that could affect him as
Exactly.
well.
True.
So keep
That's
your
a
eye
really
on
good
Kenyon Drake in your leagues.
Right, fourth quarter.
Fourth quarter.
I need an
and
Aaron
goal.
Rodgers-esque performance. Who is your Hail Mary?
My Hail Mary this week.
You're sticking with what?
What? Green 18. Green 18. No. My Hail Mary this week is owned in 17% of leagues, so I'm pretty sure you guys can all pick him up out there if you need a flex or something this week. This is a true Hail Mary. You know, this is just a shot in the dark, but I'm going another Miami Dolphin, Kenny Stills.
Ooh, very
Kenny.
intriguing.
Okay. Kenny got a 10.
Deep ball Kenny Stills.
Yes, sir. Kenny got a 10 last week in fantasy. Not bad, not bad. Interestingly enough, though, his average pass attempt to him is 25 yards.
Wow.
So they're looking to get him deep every time. That touchdown pass he caught last week was a 25-yarder. So, you know, you're getting yards and a TD out of a play like that, you know. So you don't need many of those to really get into double digits. And this week, the Dolphins are playing the Browns, who have a decent secondary. Joe Hayden and those guys know what they're doing, but they have been giving up some wide receiver TDs. To wideouts this year, they've given up 4 touchdowns as opposed to 1 rushing TD so far this year. So, I mean, there's definitely options there. It seems like you can score on these guys right now. Otherwise, they are giving up some big plays. I mean, Aguilar in week 1 had a 35-yard catch against them. Not to mention Jordan Matthews had like a 20-something yard TD as well. Last week against the Ravens, the Browns led up 9 catches and a 30-yard long to Dennis Pita, and Steve Smith also had a 30-yard catch.
Wow.
So I'm thinking, I mean, Stills only got thrown to 4 times this past week with 2 catches, but I think if they get him in there, he goes deep, catches a deep touchdown. I say give him a shot in flex if you're really desperate and not sure about the guy you got in there right now.
He also would have put up a very solid stat line for week 1 had he not dropped the 75, 80-yard touchdown pass that was thrown to him.
Right.
So that right there would have gotten you 14 points, and he probably would have been one of the highest picks on the waiver wire after that.
Easy.
So
That's right.
I think that's a great Hail Mary pick.
No, like you were saying, that was his bread and butter when he was on New Orleans. Drew Brees loved to hit Kenny Stills long. The problem is Ryan Tannehill really doesn't look to him as much. But with Adam Gase coming in as the head coach, he's kind of a quarterback guy. He's going to want Tannehill to throw, and if you want to find somebody outside of Juice Landry, that's your man right there. Like you said, 25 yards a pass attempt. He's got big play threat. He's definitely one of those boom and bust players, but he could definitely be a flex option this week, especially since Joe Hayden does not look like Joe Hayden. It's kind of weird. And he wouldn't even see Joe Hayden anyway. That's all juice right there.
I was thinking that
that's
too,
true.
man. It's
Yeah.
not like Joe Hayden's going to be guarding him.
Exactly.
He'll have, whoever else is out there.
That's
so.
very true.
Yeah, keep an eye on him.
You
He
could
could,
see-
he could win you your fantasy game in one play.
I was going to say, you could see an uptick in waivers after this week and possibly even next week for Kenny Stills. I could see him getting scooped up rather quickly because of his speed and his breakout kind of performance that he could have.
Easy.
No doubt.
All right. getting down to the nitty gritty, almost at the end. So this time, let's do game of the week again. We're each gonna highlight a game that we're gonna look at. You can pick the same game if you want.
Hold up.
But my fantasy game of this week,
What's
I'll
it
go
gonna be,
first.
man?
I'll let you
Who
guys
is it
keep
gonna
this
be?
up.
Who is it, Bass? I'm dying to know.
Who's
You
it
already
gonna
know
be?
who it
I'm
is.
biting
It better not.
You
be
already
your
know
own
who it
team.
is. It's gonna
Colts, I'll
be an
kill you.
offensive shootout, kid.
Oh, no.
An offensive shootout. Indianapolis,
Oh my
San Diego. San Diego has been filthy on offense this year.
Okay.
They ran up the score on KC in the first half. Unfortunately, lost it because of the defense. Last week they played
San Diegans.
San Diego.
San Diegans.
San Diegans.
San
San
Diegans.
Diegans.
The San Diegans.
San Diegans.
That's not real.
San
San
Diego.
Diegans.
San Diego.
San Diegans.
Who did San Diego play?
Huh? Last week?
Yeah.
Jayville. It was terrible.
Jacksonville. That, of course. San Diego
I went to smack
put
in
out
London.
points on Jacksonville. They're going to put up points on Indianapolis. But that defense against Kansas City, Andrew Luck is going to tear that apart. They're not the Broncos, guys. They're more like the Detroit Lions. Andrew Luck put up a 43 against the Detroit Lions. Without Bosa, what is Andrew Luck going to do against them San Diego Chargers? If you got any players in that game, start them, especially if they're in that passing game. Real high-octane offenses, high-octane passing games.
Yeah.
I'm going with that. Indianapolis versus San Diego for the fantasy game of the week.
Speaking of high-octane offenses, my pick this week is definitely going to be that Green Bay-Detroit game. Those are two high-flying offenses. I think Green Bay bounces back without a doubt this week against that struggling Detroit defense. Like you said, even Andrew Luck could muster a 43 against that defense. So
Even Andrew Luck.
I think
Luck.
MVP Aaron Rodgers might be able to throw 5 touchdowns this week.
Wow.
Hold on,
Definitely a
Andrew
possibility.
Luck.
Detroit has been very leaky.
The third fantasy quarterback. Even Andrew Luck. I don't want to hear that.
I was just hoping you would
Yeah,
catch that.
no.
But what I do want to say about that game is expect a lot out of both passing games. I wouldn't expect a lot out of either of the run games.
Not a chance.
I think the Lions' run game continues to struggle, especially without them having the ideal running back there. Mostly a lot of guys that can catch the ball. And Eddie Lacy, I mean, where's his ass at?
Playing
It's
like
sad.
Bonds.
It's
But
real
still,
sad.
I think that game's going to put up over 40 points for each team. And I could just see it being a total shootout. So that's a game I think everyone should keep their eye on fantasy-wise for this weekend.
Like you said, another good offensive game. You're looking for that with game of the week, man. Those two offenses, like you said, could fly. I see big games out of Marvin Jones, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, even Anquan Bolden, who should have had 2 touchdowns last week, dropped one.
And
yeah,
Bolden
I
also
like
available in a lot of leagues. He's going to get a lot of targets this year
Absolutely.
Yeah.
as that third receiver.
There's
in
plenty
for
of
Detroit.
looks.
Plenty
Plenty
to
of
go
looks from
around.
Stafford.
Plenty to go around.
Craig, who's your game of the week?
My game is I'm going to take one of the same teams that was taken last week in what was supposed to be a shootout with the Giants and the Saints. I'm taking the Saints and the Falcons. I think you
like
need to
that
watch the players on both teams here. You have Mohamed Sanu, Julio Jones, Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman, Matt Ryan. All those guys could go off. Then you also have Drew Brees, Willie Snead, Brandon Cooks, and Mark Ingram. Again, collectively, those guys could go off. I think that that has the most potential for the fantasy players to score the most. I think that collectively, between both those sides, that'll be the highest scoring fantasy game of the week. And I'm looking forward to a shootout. I think it'll probably be like 35-28 final score.
I like that. Yeah, Saints really should have put up an offensive showing last week. They're going to have a big chance to do it against the Falcons. They did let up a couple points to Oakland last week. It's a good one. So, wrap it up. Pace, who are we going with?
I'm going to go with, for game of the week, the hometown game. Eagles versus the Steelers.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay.
I think we could see this turn into a high-scoring game. I could certainly see the Steelers going off for a lot of points. Eagles have good defense, but I mean, Steelers didn't really get it in last week with that bad weather. Ann Brown had 2 catches, something like that.
Yeah.
They didn't really go off,
Career.
so I could see the Steelers rebounding for sure. And then back at home, this could be the week where you also see Carson Wentz finally go off. Not that he hasn't, but I mean, really like have a game, try to keep up with the Steelers all afternoon.
Yeah, you certainly got the score.
Yeah, I
You're
think
right.
you could see Jordan Matthews catch another TD. We mentioned Aguilar as like a Hail Mary pick earlier. I could see Sproles getting, his action as well. Gio Bernard, the Cincinnati receiving back, had a 19-5 in our fantasy league last week. So I could see Sproles doing something similar, catching balls and running on the Steeler linebackers.
Absolutely.
And the Steelers, you know them. D'Angelo Williams, Ant Brown, Ben, like those guys are probably
They
going to
move
come
the
back
rock
and go
and they
off.
Possibly get
Rock.
Wheaton back too.
Yeah, get Wheaton back. I heard about that too. So I say that game. If you can get any receivers from that game or one of the running backs, I think
Sproles
or
might
the
be
quarterbacks.
available.
Yeah,
Sproles because he's easily be available.
He's in our waiver. I don't really have a need. I didn't grab him, but if you're like desperate,
If you have any of the running backs who went down,
yeah. Game of the week.
I like
I
it.
like that.
I like it.
Final score on that one? Put you on the spot?
Yeah. Let's say
Highfalutin offense.
31 Eagles. Steelers going for like 42.
Wow.
Still, that's 72 points right there. That's a lot of fantasy
I
points.
think it's
That
gonna be
That's
a nice
enough
game.
to go around.
It'll be a nice
Yeah.
game.
That's enough to go
But
around.
All right, I think that's enough for this week.
yeah, I mean, we're gonna go pace real quick. If you guys want to ask us questions, we're always looking for back-to-backs.
Actually, yeah.
Ask us any type of questions. Pace, what's our Twitter?
Somebody
Get
asked
them
you
all
one.
of our.
Sammy Bradford?
You guys want to get into the one question that was asked of us?
I
Sure.
didn't
We
know
just-
that. My
We
bad.
already talked about this team a lot, so we'll just.
There's nothing there.
Well, we didn't really.
was
We already
the
talked
question?
about the Vikings a lot earlier in the beginning, but we can just all give a quick answer on this real quick. This is from Chet Manley
Chet Maddox.
from YouTube. Do you think Sam Bradford's performance last week solidified him as a top 15 quarterback? The answer's no.
Is it this week or for the season?
It
'Cause
sounds
either
like-
way,
no,
I'm
it
probably
sounds like for the
going
season.
no.
For the season, like, do you think
I
he's
mean-
Also going now. I don't think one game was enough to really
solidify him? That's
solidify
a strong
what Sam Bradford can be on this offense. I don't know, it's just not,
That was like
not
the
enough
best.
for me to say.
That was like the best game Sam Bradford's had in his 6-year career. So
And the
I-
thing is, you're going to have to think about what the Adrian Peterson injury does. For the first 2 weeks, I know Bradford only played the second week. They stacked the box and let Bradford beat them in week 2
Definitely.
because
Yeah.
they don't. You don't want Adrian Peterson to go off on you. They're probably going to win the game, especially with that defense. All Adrian Peterson has to do is score 1 or 2. That defense will get him a couple, but right now I'm going to say no. I don't see Bradford finishing as a top 15 quarterback for the season.
maybe 20.
Yeah.
Maybe 20.
Also because of the schedule he has to go through, but if it comes down to it and he's got a good matchup and you don't got anybody else to start, I wouldn't mind putting Bradford in there. Way he looked with Diggs,
'Cause he
and
has
they got
Diggs.
Rudolph too. They got weapons.
Yeah, that's true.
But
All
the Adrian
offenses have
Peterson
weapons.
thing hurts him.
But yeah, I don't think solidifies. I think that's too strong of a word. But I can see him being in the top 20, 25 by the end of the season.
That's not bad. But yeah,
That's where I see him ending up.
we appreciate the questions. Like we said, that's awesome. You can put them in the chat. Unfortunately, we didn't see that. Our bad. But you can also ask us on Twitter. I'll let Pace tell you about that.
It's a learning process. We'll get there.
Yeah, if you guys are watching this live, you always can. The YouTube channel is just called 4th and Goal. There's always going to be a live stream every week. You can ask questions in the chat. Please feel free and subscribe to the channel. And on Twitter, hit us up as well with questions and the follow. The Twitter handle is just 4th and Goal Cast. So the number 4, TH, and Goal Cast. That's on Twitter. Follow us there. Subscribe to us here. You'll see us probably Thursday, maybe Wednesday, every once in a while. We'll get it in before the Thursday night game. But that's the plan. Thanks for watching and listening.
Thanks,
I
guys.
appreciate it. We'll
See
see you
you
next
later.
weekend.
Peace.
Stay classy, San Diego.
Simmer down, simmer down, simmer down.